Sup, you beautiful bastards. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome back to the Liz Neptune show, and let's just jump right into it. I wanted to talk about some of my culture shocks that I experienced when I was in Mexico. Of course, I want to make the disclaimer to say that I am an evil,
disgusting, vile, wretched American.
So, that being said, don't take any of this personally, okay? These are just like observations, things that may not be common in my country. Overall, I had a really wonderful, amazing experience in Mexico, as you can see from my other videos. I should also mention that the places that I stayed in Mexico were primarily Puerto Escondido, Mazunte, and Mexico City, la Ciudad de Mexico. Okay, I won't do that anymore. So some of these culture shocks might be dependent on where you are. So I'm gonna try and say where I was when I felt this. Back in Puerto Escondido, one of the weird but interesting things were that there were wild dogs everywhere. They were in restaurants, shops, out on the street walking. They were on the beach having fun. In New York, you know, there are people who like to take their dogs with them everywhere, but it was really weird to see dogs like in the restaurant. Not just tied, sitting outside, like they're in the restaurant. And in the club. I partied in the club with dogs on many occasions. They always talk about how cheap everything in Mexico is, but I guess I didn't understand how cheap things were. So that was like the best culture shock. Another thing that I thought was really cool was in the club, they would have like this guy who goes around like holding like a box of like shit that you need. And he just walks around the club and he'll sell it to you. Cigarettes, candy, gum. Yeah, that was like so convenient. Mexico is a huge place. I don't know if you're late to the party like me, but Mexico's real name is actually Estados Unidos Mexicanos, so like Mexican United States. I mean, I knew that Mexico was big, but like I guess the fact of me visiting there and like having to look at the map all the time, there's gonna be like vast cultural differences, even though you probably wouldn't think that they would have that, which I definitely didn't. Some of these, they're not really like shocks, like but more like observations. But specifically Puerto Angelito, I noticed that like a lot of the Mexicans, they don't actually like wear bathing suits. It sounds like a pointless observation now that I say it out loud, but let's just go with it. They wear like their regular clothes, jeans, and a shirt to go swimming in, and the kids too. Another thing, a lot of shit is closed on Monday. Sometimes we would go out on Sunday nights, like when I was in Puerto for a party or something, and then Monday, you know, it's like I don't want to do anything, I just want to go buy some food or something like that, and then we'd try and go, and it's like so much shit would be closed. So there are a lot of Europeans in Mexico and some white Americans that come visit Mexico, but like in my experience, I saw like virtually no black people at all, especially in Puerto. I was down there a month and I saw maybe less than 10 black people that entire time that I was there. I would say 80% of the black people that were there were French. I guess that was like the first time that I ever really experienced that. But I had a hypothesis. I do believe that of course there are black people in Mexico, but they're all in Cancun.
Up to a place, shorty back eyes on the west. Don't try and
yeah, to my fellow African American over there, if you know where that's from, please leave a comment. Yes, so the next huge thing is to stay the hell off of the beach at nighttime. This is so serious and so important. I can't speak for the rest of Mexico. I'm sure there's places where it's like, you know, whatever. But like in Puerto, stay your ass off of the beach at night. I don't want to have to tell you again. But I have a very, you know, kind of crazy story. I wasn't sure if I wanted to tell this story because I don't want to deter people from coming to Mexico. You know, you just have to be smart and keep your wits about you. Definitely heard many stories of bribery and people getting their shit stolen. It's like, I'm glad that I heard these stories though. I was coming home back to my hostel from, I was taking pictures, sun was going down. I was like, oh man, I want to get some food. Like the thing was, I was very shook because of all the shit that my parents told me, all the shit stories I was hearing. So I was like extra paranoid while I was down there, like especially if I had my camera, make it my business that I was in that hostel by the time it got dark. You have like an hour after the sun goes down before it actually gets dark. I get some food. Where my hostel was, it was a bit of a stretch. And mind you, it's all beach. So it's like you come down from my hostel to the main road, and there's the beach is there, and then down the road is like the restaurants and bars and all that. I'm walking in that patch of like nothingness, and I am very paranoid, and I'm looking around like this, head on a swivel, and I'm trying to walk strong, and I have my hand in a fist, and I'm trying to look like, yo, it would be very bad for you to try and mess with me. Because even if that's not the case, you have to fake it until you make it home, basically. I'm walking like this. Then I look back and I see some people, like 2 people running, and they're like screaming, and they're like running really fast, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I like start to like walk a little bit faster, run a little bit, and then I start running, and they're like screaming, and I'm like, oh man, they're just playing around, you know, like I don't want to look stupid, which is like so stupid to care about how you're gonna look when you're just trying to be safe. I'm walking, and this guy runs by, and he's like, ah, starts screaming at me like, I don't know where to go, and he's like pointing like for us to run, and I'm just like, holy fuck, and I start running, and it's actually this guy, he's staying at the hostel, but he's from like another part of Mexico, like Mexico City or something like that, and he came down to vacation. Like when we were running, he was like pushing his sister towards me, like trying to tell me like, take my sister away, you know. And we're running, and like, mind you, I have my freaking backpack full of gear. I am not in the best shape for running for my life for a long period of time. I just realized like this is why it happens in horror movies, is because like you always think that no, when something's happened, I'm gonna have to, and it's just like it doesn't really work like that. My hostel is at the top of a steep ass hill, and we get like a quarter of the way, and I'm just like so out of steam. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué corriendo? I don't know how to think, don't know how to speak Spanish properly, obviously. And she's just like saying some shit to me, and I'm just like, no entiendo. And then she's like, goes up and she's like, holds her fist up like this, and she's like, like saying something to me, and I'm just like, let's go. Well, what come to find out was that like her and her brother and her mom, they were robbed by a guy with a gun when they were coming off the beach. The guy ended up taking her cell phone and a credit card. Next cultural thing that really sucked was the drinks, and the beer is weak as hell. I know that I have a high tolerance for alcohol, but like beer and booze drinks are like very weak. And the reason why I think that is because of the same reason for the Native Americans. You know, they don't have a lot of history in their bloodline of drinking alcohol. They did have pulque, which is like the sap from the agave plant, that they make it into like this kind of fermented, suspicious white substance looking kind of drink. When the Spanish came to Mexico and they ran out of all their rum and their whiskey and all that stuff, that's when they started fermenting like the agave plant, and then, you know, they came up with tequila. I am actually really shocked and impressed with myself that I remembered that. The drinks are very weak because Mexicans get drunk very easily. I went to this really nice underground bar in Mexico City one night. I mean, this shit was cool. And they had this fancy drink, like the dude took 5 minutes to make it. He was burning sage, and I was drank it out of a bamboo shoot like this. That shit was like 180 pesos, which is like $9. So that's like still really cheap for like a very expensive nice drink, where I think in a place like that, if you were in New York, it will cost you like $16. Another interesting thing is that a lot of restaurants do not use containers. Like if you're taking away food, whenever you take food away, it's wrapped in saran wrap or foil, or there might be like a little styrofoam tray and they put the food in there and then wrap it up and take it away. I don't know, that was just a random observation, not really a culture shock. So another culture shock that I had that was like personally shocking to me was realizing that I was not a hippie. I realized this because I got to see real hippies. So the hostel that I stayed at was in Zicatela. Most of the hippies, they stayed down in La Punta, which is at the end of the beach. Actually, there was kind of a running joke in our hostel. There was just like hippie weirdos over there. Lots of white people with dreads. I don't personally have a problem with that, but by saying that, I think you get what I mean. People you could tell don't really bathe, not shaving, topless, seemingly a lot of drug use over there, mushrooms, LSD, this kind of thing. And like the restaurants and stuff over there, they were always like, you know, vegan, soy, fair trade, that kind of vibe. Like I remember over there I saw some like hostel that was like, it was like outside. It's like a fence sort of, and then there were just like beds everywhere, like homeless kind of vibe. Actually there, that kind of describes it better. It didn't feel dangerous. It just, I don't know. Being around people who are on like drugs like that all the time are kind of weird people. I'm a Yankee hippie. I'm a domesticated hippie. Hey, that's actually good. I'm a domesticated hippie. Another thing that I thought was pretty cool was I saw plenty of women breastfeeding in public. Free the nipple, motherfucker. Mexican shop owners and European shop owners, they let other Mexicans kind of like, I wrote here, hustle in their shops. You're sitting at a restaurant, they're waiting for your food or eating, and there'd be like someone coming by selling some other food, some trinket or maybe some pineapple, and they'll come up and they'll offer you something, and then you say yes or no, and then they leave. But I did think that it was, you know, kind of nice that they let other people sell their stuff. Versus like in America, it'd be like, no solicitation, get your ass on out of here. I have a couple more observations. Most of these were in Mexico City. The most common car is a Volkswagen. Everyone in Mexico City drives a Volkswagen. I don't know what's up with that. I don't ask questions. I'm just here to report. Another thing about cars in Mexico City that was very weird, some of the newest cars have manual windows. What the hell? Yes, the grinder. I don't know what's up with that. If anyone's watching this and they could explain what that's about. Multiple Ubers, 2014, 15, 16, they would have manual windows. And speaking of Uber, obviously they have Uber in Mexico. It's everywhere. It's cheap as hell. From the airport to like my hostel was like $8 or $9, and I was in the car for like 45 minutes. This shit was crazy, and it was just me. I one time took Uber to get food. Get an Uber, go to a restaurant, order food, and get the Uber to bring you back home. Luxury. I want to go back there so bad and like just stay a month. Mexico City is definitely my new favorite city. I feel like the city of Berlin is like standing right behind my shoulder being like, really bitch? Really? When I was going back home from Puerto, I had planned to only visit Mexico City for like 2 days. That is nuts. And I'm so glad that I got to speak to other people, and they were like, no, you need to stay there at least a week. That goes back to that fear thing that I was talking about, you know? I stayed in Puerto for so long. I should have honestly stayed there for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then I should have kept it moving. But, you know, I'll cut myself some slack because I had never traveled alone before. I never backpacked. I stayed there because I was comfortable. Actually, wasn't that comfortable. I was very irritated for quite a bit of it. I'd rather be irritated and like on stable ground than like not know at the time. I wish I had spent most of my time in Mexico City actually, because I started meeting people like really fast. Shout out couch surfing. I fucking love that website. That website held me down when I was in Mexico. In Mexico, they also have Postmates. They have so many American companies there. As soon as I touch down at the airport, I get off, I see a fucking Starbucks. I'm like, what are you doing here? You know, of course you get like colonial vibes and stuff like that. McDonald's, Burger King, like all the chains that you could imagine having here, they got them there. So this one's kind of funny actually. I wrote a lot of these stuff from this list as they were happening, and I have written down here, Mexicans don't know how to read maps. Them not know how to read maps, not know how to use Google Maps, like not having a good sense of direction, like, or how to use like GPS technology. Number 23, I have sacrifices. You have to watch my last video about the Teotihuacan ruins, talking about the Aztec sacrifices. It's all talked about and explained there. I don't want to go into further detail. Check it out. Finally, on my list, one of the things that's a little bit scary about Mexico, but something that I actually really like about Mexico, there are just not as many rules as in America. Sometimes that may be a bad thing because it might affect safety. A little bit more chaos, less order, but sometimes it can be kind of cool, because one of the biggest things I really dislike about America is that there's so many fucking rules. You can't do this, you can't step here, you can't walk here, that's illegal, this is illegal. And so I know that a lot of these things in America usually end up becoming laws because something happens, like some dumb person does something and they get killed and then they fuck it up for everybody else. But like, you know, it's kind of nice to like have that freedom. I hope what I'm saying is making sense, like without me having to go into any examples, because frankly this video is too long as it is. Mexico's very lax, very chill, and I can't wait to go back. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you really enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think about the culture shocks, anything that you saw and observed that is the same, or if you want to tell me to fuck right off with the rest of us Yankees, you can go ahead and do that too. Just make sure you leave a like. Also, if you would like to support this channel, which I really hope that you do, please consider becoming a Patreon or a one-time donation in my PayPal. The links are below. And yeah, peace out. Love ya.